Hello and welcome to Media7. I'm Russell Brown. The last time we looked at the music press on this program, we virtually performed its last rites. Beaten down by the internet, starved in a tough advertising market, the music mag was an endangered species. Well, we'll look at the wider music media and at NZ On Air's efforts to adjust to a changing environment. But first, Jose Barbosa went to the launch of, yes, a new music magazine.
Almost a year ago, we marked the final issue of the music lifestyle Bible, Real Groove, and its merger with its smaller stablemate, A Groove Guide. But 6 months later, the free little mag was shut down. Its owners said the magazine simply wasn't performing as expected. It was, however, plucked from the shredder when it was sold to Grant Hislop, the current program director at Juice TV. But we're here at the launch of Volume, a new weekly magazine which has more than a few things in common with the aforementioned Groove Guide.
Basically, I was contacted by APN, who saw an opportunity in the street press world when Groove Guide initially folded, and APN has not been in this territory at all. So they were really saying, we're using your instincts, your taste with this. The vision for Volume is a throwback to everything that you loved about newsprint street press, delivered hot to the streets every week with the scoop on what was happening, you know. This is all going to be supplemented by what we can do online. So Hugh Sunday is our web editor.
A lot of the stuff which Sam's going to be covering lends itself quite well to multimedia anyways. For example, in the Talking Heads segment, the first one is Jordan Luck and Keith Quinn in conversation. You're going to be able to listen to the full audio, which is just over half an hour, or probably like a 15-minute video of the same thing.
So you got Geordie roots?
Indeed.
Indeed.
But
can you speak the language?
My father was, the Hildy.
Yeah.
No.
But it's unclear whether Volume can survive in a market where advertising revenue is about as flimsy as Adidas stitching.
I'm sure I'll be having those meetings as well where I'll be talking bottom lines and so on. But for now, we just want to pick up something that people want to read, you know. You actually want to pick it up and you're going to sit on the toilet and thumb through every article and read every review, you know. Once we're doing that, we're on the right track and the advertising will come in behind that.
Jose Barbosa there, and I reckon that Jersey thing was rigged. Anyway, the phrase music discovery was often uttered at this week's Going Global Music Summit on Auckland's Queen's Wharf. It's all about where fans find music, and increasingly, the theory goes, that's on the internet and not on the radio. Tell it to Jen Long, the BBC Radio 1 presenter here for the summit. She's one of the hosts of Introducing, a program presenting new and unsigned artists, and she told me radio still matters plenty. You host a radio show that features new and unsigned artists, but aren't we supposed to all be discovering music on the internet now?
Yeah, I discover a lot of music on the internet. There is a lot of music on the internet. I think that's kind of the problem, is that there's so much will take you. It's like a full-time job just trying to get through it all. So I think what you have in radio is it's almost like a gatekeeper. It's someone that you can go to, just like with magazines, that you can go to and trust and know that, you know, you're reading about that band or you're listening to that band because they are good. Because like people are passionate about music, but people aren't like spend 7 hours a day on like my Google Reader account passionate about music.
How do you think that internet music discovery and the blogs and MySpace and Pitchfork and Hype Machine, all those things, how have they changed radio? How has it changed your role?
It's fantastic. I love going online and finding like 3 bands and being like, whoa man, these are wicked, and then like, you know, you play them on the radio that week, get a great response for something like a Purity Ring or something that you've read about on, say, Transparent blog. And yeah, I think it hasn't changed my job. My job is still going out and finding new music. It's just added another element to it. So
do you think music bloggers now also fill that gatekeeper role?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think they're some of the most important people right now in new music discovery, are like the people who run some of the bigger blogs that a lot of people read and a lot of people really do pay attention to.
I wonder if you're in the same position as the musicians, and that it's no longer enough for them just to make a record. They have to go out and communicate with their audience via blogs and on Twitter and that sort of thing. Is it the same for you making radio? You can't just make radio anymore.
I think I've written on the Introducing blog. I write for like a few different websites. I have my own blog, so Wait for the Click. I write for Enemy, Line of Best Fit, Art Rocker, Rock Feedback, BBC album reviews. Like, yeah, I think Well, if you just love music, you don't even think about it in like oh, if I really want to get noticed, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do that. You just sat around with your mates, and it's like, I really want to put my friend's record out. Should we start a record label? Yeah, let's do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're really passionate about something, then you just want to spend all your time doing it. So, yeah, definitely.
BBC Six Music, BBC's digital music radio station, famously got a reprieve from funding cuts last year because of a real groundswell of support for it. Do you think that indicates that people still have a passion for music radio?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people would just, because there's not a massive place for that sort of music in mainstream radio, definitely not in commercial radio, so it was kind of like the only place, and a lot of my friends worked there, a lot of like indie labels were kind of like, where are we going to get played now if we don't have Six Music? So I think it kind of showed that, yes, that people in the UK are still really passionate for music, but especially they have that passion for like music that comes from a certain place. You know, it's like genuine, it's kind of this, it's real.
People are after authenticity.
Yeah, very much so, compared to like commercial radio where you have like some banging pop or some like R&B or something that's probably come from a major label, it's come from the States. With Six Music, you really feel like it's representing the kind of music that we work with in the UK, so a lot of people really did want it to close, and I'm really glad it didn't.
So what's the health of the UK music press now? Is NME, for example, still as influential as it ever used to be?
Yeah, I think the NME is pretty influential, and also it's just, if you're a band and you get written about in the NME, you get played on Radio 1, that's still a big thing, it's still exciting. But as well as that, I feel like being blogged about on Neon Gold's sake can probably get you to just as many people as being written about in NME, if not more, to be completely honest. So the game, I feel like the playing field is kind of leveling. That's the sort of like, it's a really cheesy like way to put it, but that's the kind of way I feel, where it's definitely becoming a lot easier for bands to be discovered without being written about in NME, without being played on Radio 1 in the UK.
Sounds like the day is nearing when you're going to need a gatekeeper to tell you which are the cool radio stations.
No, it's just Radio 1. Just listen to Radio 1. Don't bother with the rest. They're rubbish.
Jen Long there. So there's print, there's radio, and there's the internet. Today's networks give artists and their labels an undreamt of global reach, but is anyone out there actually buying? I'm joined now by a New Zealand pop artist whose strategy is all about the internet, Zoe. Hello. One of the creative forces behind hip-hop is Homebrew and At Peace, and quite the rascal on Twitter, Tom Scott. And a man who started his record label long before anyone had an email address and has regained it in the age of Facebook, Twitter and podcasts. Flying Gnome Records, Roger Shepherd. Welcome to you all. Now, Zoe, we'll start with you because one thing I've noticed about your internet presence is that you are extraordinarily responsive. Yeah. But you will get back to anyone who mentions you, contacts you, or anything like that. I mean, is it the case that you're pretty much online, switched on, when you're not on stage or sleeping?
Well, it helps that I'm nocturnal. But yeah, I just feel that those are your true fans, especially early on, because I'm just kind of starting out pretty much and getting noticed around the place. But yeah, I just feel like responding to those people really early on are those people that are going to stick around as well. But yeah, I'm on a lot, and it helps that I'm recording all the time with the laptop there, so I can constantly be like...
Because I met your manager, Will Larnach-Jones, the other day, who's Australian, and he has a real reputation for internet strategy. He worked with Modular Records, and they were all over the internet. Was that why you went to him?
With Will, the thing that first drew me to him was actually the presets, who he manages as well. And I did notice all the crazy kind of online things that they were doing, but I was lucky enough that the guy who I wrote Broken Machine with, my first single...
Which is your first single?
Yeah, my first single, and he was really good friends with Will. And then so I was like, Will is the guy for me. And I had a few people trying to say, I want to be your manager or whatever, but I just knew Will was the one.
Tom, you're online a lot as well. It strikes me that you use the internet with Homebrew, and the way that people used to use posters and flyers. You tell people where you're going to be and what you're doing. Is that how you see it?
I think the internet just helps you to be yourself, you know? Like I had a good sandwich today. People can know that, you know? And as an artist, that's what you're doing the whole time anyway, trying to tell people about your life, so it helps for that, I guess.
So you're doing that as Tom, not Tom from Homebrew. It's not like you're trying to project something.
Nah, I can't disassociate myself from that. It's always going to be Tom from Homebrew online, unless it's Tom from Evandale or whatever. But nah, you got to be the persona that they, you know. There's always going to be a persona if it's posted under Homebrew or Zoe or Russell Brown, you know.
Yeah. Whereas Roger, you began your record label in 1981. Before, as I noted, anyone had an email address. Have you ever thought about how things might be different now if you'd launched it in the age of all these amazing online tools?
Well, we had our own sort of very modern tools back then. You know, I don't think we should forget how effective making a toll call could be. There were aeroplanes in 1981. But yeah, I mean, there was no internet. I think very early we made the decision not to buy a telex machine because they were obviously on the way out. And we waited for the fax machine to come down in price, you know, so we could actually buy one.
I seem to recall there was a stretch of years where the fax machine was the key business tool.
Yes, yeah, and you could write a message and then fax it. You didn't have to type. So we all were quite delayed typers because you didn't need to use a keyboard. But I think you use whatever's sort of handy, really. And obviously now the internet's there. That's a fantastic tool. But you know, often the message is exactly the same. You know, what are the bands doing? What releases are coming out? Who's touring? Still the same sort of information that we want to spread. It's just so much more efficient.
You've got both new and back catalogue artists on the label now.
Yep.
Is there any difference between them and their willingness to get online and project?
It's quite mixed, but obviously I think the audience of some of the younger bands is noticeably more responsive to the whole online thing. You just see it with in terms of sales, what format, you know, who buys what format. So someone like F and Math, a lot more MP3s sold, a lot more online sales basically. Whereas the older artists, the fans are obviously ancient. They're still buying CDs and shock horror bits of plastic called records.
And cassettes, which all the cool kids are doing.
We haven't
now.
sold many cassettes recently, but I'm waiting for that to catch on.
Well, Jen Long, who we interviewed before, has a cassette-only label, so you really need to catch up. We'll take a break now, and when we return, Size Up NZ On Air's revamp of its schemes for getting our music on air.